Hey you guys, I wanted to put together a video to showcase the feature set for Super Simple Skybox. So Super Simple Skybox is a straightforward but powerful skybox shader for Unity URP. It also works with the built-in render pipeline. I have it here open in Unity 2022.3, but it's currently compatible with Unity 2021.3 and later. Super Simple Skybox is designed using shader graph along with custom shader graph functions and subgraphs. When you import Super Simple Skybox to your project, it'll import to the packages folder. That's because it's a UPM style package like other Unity packages. And we do that because it's more consistent with the way that Unity handles their projects and packages. And also it makes it easier for us to maintain this asset across different versions of Unity. So when you import it, it'll import into your packages folder, and it includes a variety of different folders, including the editor, runtime, samples, shaders, and textures folders. And it also includes a changelog, a license, a package, and a README document. The README document includes more information about how to use the asset. And there's also a start menu that will show up when you load the asset that includes helpful links, like where you can get support, the manual for the package, a link to our Discord, and other links to join our newsletter or to get access to the membership bundle. So this is the demo scene that's included with the asset. You can see here that the skybox is already configured, and if we look within the asset or project hierarchy, we already have a sun and a moon configured in the project. Instead of just using this project right away or this scene right away, I'm going to go ahead and create a new scene to walk you through the steps that you'll need to take in a new scene on your own in order to understand how to set this up. So I'll call this demo scene, and then we'll go ahead and open that. So in your demo scene, you'll see that you have the default Unity skybox. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to replace the default skybox with a Super Simple Skybox material. So in order to do that, you can go to your assets, create material, and then we'll just call this our skybox material. Then you'll click on your shader, and then click Oka Software, Super Simple Skybox. Now we need to apply this skybox to the skybox material in your project. So you can just drag and drop that into your skybox material. You can see here it looks pretty weird. That's because the default settings are configured in a way that, it helps you to not be too constrained by what we had previously configured for this asset. So in order to set this up, we can configure the different sky settings and sun settings, as well as moon, star settings, and cloud settings, in order to make sure that this asset is working correctly. The first thing that we'll do is we'll disable the ground. So now the sky color will appear at both the top and the bottom of your sky. We're going to go ahead and set it to a color that looks quite nice. And we'll also set a color for the horizon. I think the sky should be a little bit darker. Now you can see that the clouds look a little bit funky. One thing that's really helpful and important is, of course, having a volume in your project. And that volume should make sure that you use tone mapping. So we'll go ahead and set that up, and we'll use the ACES tone mapping. And then we're going to go ahead and jump back into the skybox. Now, the sky has different settings for both day and night colors. It'll automatically interpolate between these colors as the sun goes up and comes down. That means that you need to identify an object in your scene as the sun, and then it'll automatically position the sun disk where that object is coming from. Typically, you'll want to use your main directional light for that. Before we do that, I'm just going to adjust the cloud settings slightly. So you can see we can kind of change the color here, change the opacity, change the sharpness, and so on. I think it looks a little blue though. So maybe something like that. And just want to make sure that this has post-processing enabled. There we go. Cool. So now we're going to go to our directional light, and we need to click Add Component, Oka Software, Super Simple Skybox. And I generally recommend starting with the sun component, but we also have a static sun component, which works better for situations where your sun doesn't move at all during gameplay. So you can go ahead and add the sun component. You can see that it has a few different properties, including rotations per hour, automatic light intensity, and maximum light intensity. By default, Super Simple Skybox will automatically manage rotating the sun and setting the light intensity as well as the maximum light intensity. So it'll automatically take the light intensity down or up based on the position in the sky. Let's click on it and then navigate to it by pressing F. You can see I have gizmos enabled, and if we look at where the sun is coming from, you can see that there is a sun there. Now the sun itself kind of looks a little bit bland, right? One thing that I typically recommend is using this asset with bloom. That kind of helps to add some punch to the sun. You can also enable and use the skylighting option. So we'll disable bloom in order to highlight that. So you can see when we bring up the fall off intensity for the skylighting, we can get a sort of bloom-like effect that applies to the sky. You can configure the sky color as well, or the sun color as well. This color, the zenith color, will apply as the sun is sort of closer to the top of the sky, and the horizon color will apply more as the sun gets closer to the horizon. So you can see if we bring the sun down towards the horizon, and we might want to enable ground settings again, so you can see our ground. We can adjust the settings so that the sky is, maybe a little bit less bright and maybe a little bit more red or orange. Something like that, perhaps. Bring the intensity down. Maybe bring that fall off amount up a little bit so that it's not quite so wide. And there. You can also control the sunset settings in particular. There are different options, including the radial fall off, which is sort of like a round area around the sun. The horizontal fall off, which is like how far horizontally it'll go. So you can see when we bring that up, it goes quite far. Let me turn off the clouds so you can see this a little better. And also a vertical fall off, which controls how high up this goes. So there's plenty of options here for getting the sun to kind of look exactly how you want it. Now, like I mentioned, I think that this looks best with bloom enabled. So you can really see the sun kind of pop right there. And yeah, so that's kind of like general sun settings. You can also set up a moonlight. You can see as we move the sun around in the sky, it'll reposition. All right, so for the stars, there's, when you enable the stars, you have two options. You can either use the procedural stars or the star texture, or both. The star texture uses an input texture. We've included quite a few different ones. These are, like real world textures that you can use. I think a value like 1 looks kind of good. Tiles a little bit, but it's okay. Super realistic, looks really nice. You can bring the brightness down so that it's not too powerful. And it adds a nice texture to your night sky. So that's the star texture. You can also use the procedural stars. In order to generate the procedural stars, we have a sort of calculation that we do based on the star color distribution in the real night sky. And then we assign those colors using sort of a distribution map so that the stars sort of accurately reflect the color of the stars in the night sky. When you move the directional light, it also moves these stars, so they move perfectly in sync with your light. Let's go ahead and bring this up. So now it's daytime, you can see that you can still see those stars, and that's configurable using the daytime brightness option. So you can make them quite bright during the day. So this is like a ratio from 0 to 1. So 1 means that it'll be at the brightness, and 0 means that you won't be able to see it at all. 50% means that it's at 50% of the nighttime brightness. They also have a fall off from the horizon, so you can make them less bright at the horizon. And you can combine the procedural stars with the star texture as well. So you can see here when we enable that star texture, the star texture is also enabled. But just be aware that the star texture doesn't really work in the same way as the procedural stars, and so we don't rotate it. So it'll be sort of constant, but it does move. And in order to have it move, you just set the rotation speed. Like that. Okay. And you can use these together. And it adds honestly a really nice sort of two-dimensional layer to the stars. If you want to have it not rotate at all, you can just set it to 0. You can also tint the texture. So that's the stars. As for your moon, you're going to want to go ahead and create a second directional light or just other game object in your scene. Now, when we create that directional light, it's important that it doesn't have shadows enabled. Not really for Super Simple Skybox sake, but for Unity URP sake. Unity URP only supports one directional shadow caster. So you're going to go ahead and click Add Component, Focus Software, Super Simple Skybox, Moon. And so now your moon will be assigned to the position of this directional light. So that'll match up. So you can see you have your moon here and your star here. It'll automatically rotate it for you along the sort of x-axis like this. If you want, and if you don't want, you could just set the rotations per hour to 0. You can also disable the automatic light intensity. And you can also do that for the sun option as well. Also, you can split off your star rotation script from your directional light if you wanted to have it be completely unrelated. So you just go ahead and go here, click star rotation, make sure that you remove it from the original light. And then now when you rotate this one, it'll rotate those stars. So pretty cool. Let's see, so it's the sun, the moon, the stars. That's pretty much everything you need to get started out the gate. Now I'll talk about the color modes. So there's 2 different color modes for this asset. There's a day and night color option, or there's a constant color option that makes it a little easier for you to set these properties from script. So in this case, the colors for the horizon and the sky, instead of having day and night colors, you just have one set of colors. Same thing for the clouds, which we'll go into a little bit later. But when you change these, it'll just automatically sort of change. And you'll be able to set it directly without worrying about what angle the sun is at, for example. Now, the obvious caveat here, or the problem that can occur, is when you bring the sun down below the horizon, now it's nighttime, and it doesn't really look like nighttime necessarily. So just something to keep in mind. Whereas when you're using the day-night color mode, we'll automatically interpolate between those colors for you. So now we'll go ahead and take a quick look at the cloud settings. So we include a variety of different cloud textures in here by default. There's like 30 maybe. Just go ahead and pan through some of these. See, some of them are bubbly, some of them are more cloudy, some of them are less cloudy, some are sort of more whirly. So a ton of different options here for how you want your clouds to look. And you can also use your own cloud texture as well if you want. So I'll just use something kind of bubbly and big like this. And I'll bring that cloudiness down. So you can see that the clouds are moving. You can control how the cloud's moving using the speed parameter. If you set it to 0, 0, they won't move at all. If you set the Y to something positive, it'll move up. If you set the Y to something negative, they'll come down. If you look straight up, you can see that the clouds kind of pull at the very top. You can sort of see this effect most prominently when the fall off setting here is set to 0. And so if you want to get rid of that effect a little bit, you'll just bring that fall off setting up to something like 0.6. You can control the scale of the clouds. Make sure that you use integers because otherwise it won't wrap properly. And this controls how many times around the stars will wrap, and then the Y controls how many times it'll wrap going upwards. I think a setting around 3.2 tends to look quite nice. You can control the cloudiness factor. Let's go ahead and try with like something a little bit bigger shapes. Yeah, let's do this one. Let's call it 2.1. Yeah. So you can see here that you can really range from like no clouds to very cloudy. And if we go look for our sun, you can see the sun kind of peeking through over here. And if you move it behind the clouds, it'll get sort of occluded by the clouds. The clouds also have some extent of sort of light directionality. So you can see as I bring the sun over here, see the clouds getting brighter and darker as the sun kind of passes behind them. And they also have a shading setting. So if you bring that all the way up, you can see more shading happening to the clouds. And if you bring that all the way down, you can see the clouds kind of lose their shading. I think something quite high actually looks really nice, makes it look super 3D. The sharpness setting lets you control sort of the edge of the clouds. If you set it all the way to 1, we're basically cutting out the cloud shape. And then if you set it somewhere lower, it's a smoother and smoother transition to the middle of the clouds. Something pretty high actually looks really nice because clouds tend to be pretty dense. So something between like 0.7, 0.6, and like 0.8 tends to look pretty good. And the opacity basically just lets you fade the entire thing out or in. And you can also control the cloud color. So if you want, you can make them red or whatever color you want. Obviously, don't do that. And if you want, you can control the cloud night color as well. So going over here, and then going back to the clouds, you can change the cloud tint if you want it to be super bright or really dark. And so that gives you a lot of control over how the clouds actually look. And all these options are enableable or disableable. So you can toggle the clouds, the stars, the sun, the moon, the ground. So it's quite configurable and gives you a lot of control over how your scene ultimately looks. It's actually super powerful. And it also has support for callbacks. So in the demo scene, I include an example of how to use these callbacks. But I'll just go ahead and open that script here. So the sun, for example, has callbacks for rise and set. So you'll just get a reference to that sun, whether it's, as a serialized field or something like that, or if you do find object of type. And then you can access it by accessing the onRise action and then subscribing to the onRise action. And then you can do whatever you want. Like once it's sunrise, you can like spawn fireworks, or sunset, you can spawn fireworks or something like that. On sunrise, maybe there's like a bell in your town that starts ringing during the sunrise or sunset phase. And the moon also has these same callbacks. So any directional light will also have these callbacks. So just keep that in mind, and it's something that you can use for your project. All right, so I think that's it for Super Simple Skybox. As you can see, it's actually not so simple anymore. I've added quite a few features, and it's become super powerful with a lot of different functionalities. So yeah, if you're interested in getting this asset, you can get it on the Unity Asset Store. I think right now it's on sale for $5. but normally it's $10. And if you're interested, you can get access to all 35 of the assets that I've developed for Unity as part of the membership bundle. So that bundle is only $75, and the sort of total price, if you were to buy all of the assets individually, is over $500. So it's a really good deal. I just really like doing this, and I think it's really important to make sure that you guys have really powerful assets for your games. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions about the asset or how to use it or anything like that, feel free to join the Discord. Let me know, and I'm here and happy to support. Thanks for watching.